All right, so we've had a chance to review some wounds, bleeding, burns, other trauma emergencies, or maybe you haven't done that part yet. If you haven't done that part yet and you're doing medical first, we'll get to that later on. Hopefully you see some of that. But there are a few medical emergencies that we need to talk about as part of the basic first aid course. Those are very simply seizures, strokes, and diabetes. Those may all sound very unique. Those may all sound completely unrelated, but they actually are more related than you might think. They are all medical emergencies that have to do with dysfunction to the brain. Yeah, even diabetes, a problem with your kidneys, has the medical emergency for it. The first aid part of it has to do with what's going on with your brain and how your brain functions in that emergency. So let's talk about it first and get it underway. Diabetes really is a problem with balancing insulin in your body. Now, your insulin is made in your pancreas, which is great. We need that. Or you can have some donated to you, right? You can actually take insulin. But there's two types of diabetics. So I guess when they were having the Name the Diabetes competition, it wasn't super creative. Type 1, type 2. So there's type 1 and type 2 diabetes. Type 1 is usually what we call early onset diabetes or juvenile diabetes. That is a situation where your body does not make or not use the insulin that you are making well enough to really manage the sugars that's in your blood. So you need to take extra insulin to do that job. Type 2 diabetes is a little more common, adult onset diabetes we would call it. It happens later on in life as your pancreas slows down and slows down and slows down, or got worn out and worn out and worn out. It doesn't make as much insulin as it used to. So I can still drink a case of Coke every day, but I'm not gonna burn off a case of Coke every day because I don't have the ability to transfer that sugar from my blood into energy, into my muscles and use it up. So insulin, the best way to think of it, yes, it's made in your pancreas, but insulin transfers sugar from your blood, glucose, into energy or storage, as the case may be. So it is the security card. It allows it to go from one place to another. Without insulin, you can't go from here to there. It'll stay in your blood. So one of the downsides, and we're not really going to talk too much about type 2 diabetes, later on in life, yeah, we've eaten the cake and the sugar, but we haven't moved it over. We've eaten it, but we haven't moved it over because our pancreas has slowly stopped producing insulin. There was no note on my pillow, no email, no text message, no warning whatsoever. It just slowed down and didn't even tell me. So my sugar, I still ate it. It went into my blood, went up and up and up and up, did not get used, did not get used. It's going up, did not get used. Over time, that is going to start to destroy my blood vessels and therefore some of my functions of my body. My kidneys are going to be damaged, blood vessels are going to be damaged, risk factors for heart disease and strokes are going to be affected, all those things. The solution? Slow down the sugar. That's the common solution. Other solutions, exercise, maybe even medication. So diet, exercise, medication. That causes high levels of sugar in my blood called hyperglycemia, and that's not great. And over time, that's going to really wreak havoc on my body, but that is not the medical emergency we're doing a first aid course for, because that's not something you're going to encounter that needs medical first aid. Here's the other situation. Type 1 diabetes is someone who actually puts insulin into their body. You and I will never have a situation of having too much insulin in our body because our body will only make it if we need it. However, someone who has type 1 diabetes and doesn't make enough insulin, they add it themselves from outside their body, an injection, whether that's short term or whether that's a long-term pump or something else. They are putting insulin in their body. Now, they need to make sure they balance those sugars in their body, or they're going to get into a situation where they actually have too much insulin and not enough sugar. What do we call low sugar in the body? Here's the terms for it. Hypoglycemia, low sugar, not hyperglycemia, hypoglycemia, low levels of sugar in the blood. And unless we bring those up, that insulin is going to slowly start to wear away the sugars until we're at a point where we still have insulin, but we don't have any sugar any longer. And there's an organ in your body that really needs sugar in order to work, And if it doesn't get it, it's pretty demanding, and it's going to start to fail almost immediately. That's right, your brain. So if your brain doesn't get sugar every 3 to 5 seconds, it's going to start to do strange things. And so someone who is hypoglycemic or has insulin shock is going to start to act really peculiar. So we're going to look for signs of someone who's hypoglycemic, and it's caused by exertion. We can see the slide real quick. Skipping meals, insulin overdose is the most common. Vomiting is the same as skipping a meal. But here's signs your brain isn't working super well. Rapid onset of the symptoms, headaches, confusion, intoxicated appearance, pale, cool, clammy skin. That's your body shutting down, going into shock. You're hungry. A lot of people might say they look like they are intoxicated. They're slurring their speech. They don't know who they are. They don't know where they are. Maybe they're acting strange. Their behavior's odd. If they're normally grumpy, maybe now they're all happy and excited and dancing on tables. Okay, what's wrong with Jim, right? Or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe they're normally pretty happy-go-lucky, right? Maybe Amy's usually pretty cheery, but now she's really mad and storming around and kicking garbage cans and screaming at people, right? Then we know that something's not quite right with the brain. And if we know they're insulin-dependent diabetics, the solution is easy. They have lots of insulin in their body. They don't have enough sugar. So what's the solution? Not enough sugar? Pretty simple if they're conscious. Give them sugar. So something liquid is better than solid. Something that they can keep in their mouth or under their tongue is faster than in their stomach. So although you could make them a sandwich and that would help in 20 or 30 minutes, even faster is going to be a can of soda, not diet soda. It has no sugar. So a can of Coke, icing. If you're at Give Kids the World, you're surrounded constantly by sugar. So just go anywhere that there's any food probably, and there's going to be sugar available to you. Go get some ice cream, have a Coke, have some candy, whatever the case may be. But we can give them sugar and it can be pretty fast. Don't forget to call for help. If you call for help and the paramedics like me arrive and you've given them icing and they're back to normal and they can explain how they took too much insulin or skipped a meal because we're in a hurry this morning, we'll take all that under advisement. We'll see that they're functioning properly. We'll see their brain works properly, and no problem. However, if they're still fighting you and yelling and screaming and swearing at you, then it would be a good idea for us to be there, because we have some solutions and some tricks up our sleeve that we can help get them sugar into their body. Worst case scenario, if they pass out, we can get sugar into their body through an IV or other means to help get that blood sugar up. So don't forget to call for help. If we get there and it's not required, no problem. If we get there and we are required, great, at least you've called, right? So diabetic emergencies, especially from insulin overdoses, which you wouldn't know, but hypoglycemia from strange behavior and brain problems, give them sugar. If they are hyperglycemic, which means they've been suffering from too much sugar for the last 3 or 4 years, it won't make any difference that you gave them more sugar. So if you put a cup of water in the swimming pool, no one's going to notice. But if there's nothing in the swimming pool and it needs a little bit of water, then you can go ahead and do that. So a little bit of sugar is going to be great. If they're hyperglycemic, it won't matter. If they're hypoglycemic, it'll help save their life. So we're going to do that. All right, on to the next medical emergency.